It rings for a full 20 seconds after I pick up a call. I don't know what that is.
This week on Dueling Reviews, we take a look at Southern Bastards number 15, written by Jason Aaron with art by Jason Latour. Coach Boss holds sway over Craw County for one reason. He wins football games. But after the biggest, ugliest loss of his career, the coach must become more of a criminal than ever before if he's going to keep ahead of his enemies. Enemies like Roberta Tubb, who's come to town with a machine gun and some serious questions about how her daddy died. Have you ever read Southern Bastards before?
No, and
for some reason I thought you had read that before.
What even is this? No, I'd never read Southern Bastards. I know I've read both Aaron and Latour, the Jasonsons, but I don't think I know I've read something that they did together that was a creator-owned book that wasn't this.
Okay,
but I don't know what it was.
It's a Southern fried crime comic.
Yep,
it's about a fictional Craw County, Alabama, where football is everything, and Coach Boss is the head of everything. In fact, he's the head of some crime organization stuff there in town, too. So basically, he rules the county. Yeah, and anyone who crosses him usually probably winds up dead. Yeah.
It's Friday Night Lights meets The Godfather.
Kind of. Yeah, I would say maybe Godfather, maybe, I don't know, maybe...
It's definitely a criminal empire story, except his empire isn't, crime or cocaine.
I don't know. I mean, he could be doing other things. He's in charge of, he's a crime lord. He does murder, bribery. He basically holds the entire county in his pocket.
But the main thing he does is make sure that the high school football team wins, which even here is a huge deal. And, in Texas and South, it's like life. That high school football is serious business.
And especially for smaller towns and smaller communities where you have that rally point, where it just becomes so much about the identity of that community. Football is a big deal. And I guess it's kind of dwindled a little bit more out in Western Kansas over the last couple of years because of 8-man football. Right. Has become more popular, has become more of a necessity. And then as more counties consolidate, football, don't get me wrong, football is still a big thing. Like when we go driving Friday night towards Topeka, we will see these little towns on the side of the road, just their football stadiums are lit up, bright as day, even though there's like
every car in the county
and everyone in the city is there.
Yeah, I hated that growing up.
So what do you think about this merging of crime comics with Southern hospitality?
I think it's ingenious. It really is something that is taking a lot of the kind of things that we've seen a million times in Scarface or The Sopranos or something where you'd expect this to be kind of a metropolitan thing, or at the very least this, being a very kind of a city thing, and seeing it in this context is kind of like, I can't remember what it was that you explained to me. Oh my God, this is a noir movie. And I'm like, holy crap, you're right. Lebowski, The Big Lebowski.
Oh, Big Lebowski, yeah, modern noir.
It's exactly that. It's something where we're in what feels like the wrong place, but they're doing the genre straightforward. Coach Boss has, secret plans within plans. And then, of course, the city is coming together to try and protect themselves against him. And if he goes down, he's going down alone. And the mayor and the police chief.
Yeah, they're trying to protect their backs because apparently, from what I understand of this series, now this is issue 15. Right. The first arc really looked at the current time and what was going on in Craw County. And apparently the coach never loses. And the last time that they ever lost a game would have been like in 1998. And if I understand what volume 2 is about, it actually is a flashback back to that 1998 time period. And so, this is a pretty brought in, I mean, long story going on here. This is not something that just happened overnight where he suddenly gets entwined as a mob boss or whatever. I mean, this has been going on for decades in Croc County, and I find it fascinating. And the writing is really interesting as well. I mean, through this issue, and this is the start of a new arc, so I think this might be a good jumping on place for new readers. I don't know who all the players are, but by players, I mean characters in the book, but as it's written, Jason Aaron does a really good job of at least giving us an idea of where everyone's position is in the community. And I find it very fascinating.
Yeah, I have not read the first 14, but this issue is contained. I mean, it starts with a sequence in Boss's barbecue restaurant, and we get a zoom on a big tree limb whacking stick that he keeps up on a shelf.
Yeah.
Which is clearly, not just something that he uses to impress people.
Well, it looks pretty stained red to me.
Right? And it ends with him having to take his whacking stick down off the shelf. And if this were the first act of a television show, or the first act of a movie, or even the first episode of something that's been going on that we saw, I wouldn't have any problem, and I don't have any problem keeping up.
No, this really feels like if this were a TV show, you wouldn't have 14 issues before this. This would be the start of your first season of HBO's Southern Bastards.
Or at the very least, this would be a season 2 after they had a season 1 where everything was kind of weird. But I think the most interesting part about it for me is the fact that I hate big chunks of it. Not because it's poorly written, not because it's poorly conceived, but because it is a very realistic portrayal of the kind of rural life that I don't necessarily want to admit I might have ever participated in. And I hate the main character, and I hate him in a good way. And the characters who are rotating around him, he has a young associate named Esau who's like, "Hey, coach,
yeah,
rough up the opposing quarterback before the game." And he starts out, he's like, "No, get off my field. Don't ever come back on my field again." But by the end of the issue, as they lose 2 games in a row, he's like, "Call Esau." I'm like, "Oh no, don't do it. Don't do it."
But you kind of know you kind of know that, or it comes across as this is something he probably would do regardless.
It seems like maybe something that he's done before in desperation.
Maybe.
But he feels like he's beyond it, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's
just the kind of thing that he's capable of, but he feels like he should be beyond it or above.
Or, and again, they give you, and not having read the previous issues, some of our listeners who've read this maybe can fill us in. But, they set it up that, man, the last time that we had this problem was back in 98 when they let that colored feller be the quarterback or whatever it was. And now we know that a girl is in town wondering what happened to her father. I'm wondering if we're seeing some 2+2 being put together here, and we're going to get some flashback information of what happened before.
It definitely seems like that's coming. And it's put together well enough that it doesn't feel super telegraphed.
Right.
But, that is building, and it's building well.
Mm-hmm.
And even, the things where we see the police chief and the girl he went to high school with, who's probably his ex, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
There's obviously a relationship established there. There was a thing. She was his sweetheart, maybe, and whatever is going on now, it's all just really well constructed and put together to where you don't have that bad kind of mystery.
Mm-hmm.
You have the what's going on here. I have to come back next month to find out what's going on here, and not the holy crap, the smoke monster is a what kind of mystery.
Yeah. I really dug this. I when the series first was announced a couple of years ago at San Diego Comic-Con, I was like, this sounds like just some crazy agitation stuff.
Sounds like Image to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is. But now that I've read it and kind of know what it's about, because even a lot of the covers are somewhat inflammatory. And so by the time I got around to reading this and knowing that this is a good jumping on point, I did not hate what I was presented with. I mean, you're supposed to hate the characters, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think you're supposed to feel sympathy for Coach Boss. Maybe people do. But I think you're supposed to despise these guys, and you're just waiting for the comeuppance to happen.
Yeah, it's that, the Tony Soprano or the Nucky Carmichael or the main character who is a horrible, horrible person. Or even, you go back to Friday Night Lights or that Dawson movie where he was the football player. You have these characters who are so focused that they become that Captain Ahab. And you want to see the things, not necessarily, I don't want to see bad things happen to this character. Although that is true on some level. You want to see where this goes, and you want to see a comeuppance. So you want to see something come back around on him, especially if he's going to take his whacking stick and go, beat up the teenager.
Yeah,
as
and that's
next issue's preview seems to imply.
That's the most disturbing part, is they have no problem going and beating up some teenagers. I mean, among the many, many problems that are in this book, beating up teenagers is certainly one of them. I don't know. I don't think this book is for everyone. I really don't. I think that a lot of people would just read the first page, the discussion of the diners in the dining restaurant dining restaurant. That's what it's called. Before Coach Boss walks in. And I think that might be a big turnoff right there. But knowing that these two live in the South, I think one of them's in Atlanta. The other one is in, one's from Alabama. One's from North Carolina.
Yeah.
Is where they live. They probably have a better feel for this in the rural communities than say somebody that does live in Atlanta, which is where I lived. I lived out in the suburbs of Atlanta, but no, there was not this kind of rural South or stereotypical South.
That's not that you saw.
Not that I saw. I mean, I could tell you stories about people I knew, but
there's this friend of mine. His name was Three Thumb Jake.
No, not quite like that. But I knew this person's grandmother who still dropped the N-bomb every time she was talking about and talking to people of color.
I'm not saying that one of my close friends has a grandmother who grew up eating squirrel brains, but I'm not saying that either.
So I think if you don't mind that stuff, and if you like something that's kind of gritty and kind of gross, I think this book might be worth checking out. I mean, we're 15 issues in, so, late to the party people here, but I rather enjoyed this, and I'm giving it a thumbs up.
I would too, with the caveat that this issue doesn't quite give us enough of a picture of the racial politics to see whether that might be offensive or that might be off-putting to readers. So, caveat emptor on that. I would recommend this, I think, on what I call that image level, where you go in and you read an Image comic, and even if you have no idea of the context, it's always that creator-owned process, and it's something where it's not, the editor said, hey, go write this. It's, what would be fun is if we got Howard Chaykin and we did a murder mystery set during the early days of live television.
Yeah.
That's exactly how this feels to me. It feels like, the Satellite Sam. It feels like the Ringside, which is the backstage at the wrestling exhibitions. It's precisely in that wheelhouse. So if it's something, these are things that you've enjoyed before, I would definitely recommend this. I would say that my one worry whenever you deal with rural type stories is, does the Southern accent automatically mean stupid?
No, I don't think so.
It doesn't here. There are stories where Southern accent is code for this is our brute, this is our dummy, this is our fool. It doesn't here, and I really, really like that.
Yeah, no. I mean, it does not usually sit with me that way.
Right.
But you never know. Some people might look at it a bit differently. So. And
the cover is terrifying.
Oh, all the art is terrifying. I mean, it's terrifying in a good way, right? I mean, It's very rough. It's very. I mean, if you know Jason Latour's artwork, It's blocky and hard angles and everything, but the palette is all red. I don't know who the colorist is, but the palette is all shades of red and blue, and man, it's pretty to look at in a very terrifying way.
Yeah, it's nice.
Coming out next week from Dark Horse Comics, we have Chimichanga Sorrow of World's Worst Face. Wait,
what?
Chimichanga Sorrow of World's Worst Face, number 2 of 4.
What?
That's what it's called. I'm not having a stroke, ladies and gentlemen.
There are words in that title, but there are no words in their words.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Nose, baseball, hieroglyphic hopscotch, pals, to the Bob story.
Well, don't forget then that we also have Psychopath Inspector Shinaya Kogami trade paperback.
Oh, that sounds cool.
And a bunch more from Dark Horse Comics next week. DC Comics has Action Comics 967, All-Star Batman number 4, Deathstroke number 4, Doom Patrol number 3, Earth 2 Society number 18, Flash number 10, Scooby Apocalypse number 7. Ooh. Sugar and Spike Metahuman Investigations trade paperback. I'm grabbing that one because I enjoyed the heck out of that Sugar and Spike issue that we reviewed, or that chapter that we reviewed in the anthology.
What was it? Legends of Tomorrow?
Yeah. I want to read that. Now, I don't know if this is, let me look this up. I don't know if this is a collection of their old stories or something else.
I'd love to see their old stories collected, but I doubt that they do.
Not for $14, probably.
No, that's probably the 6 or 8.
Nope. Yeah, it's the new stuff. It's the new stuff. Yep, exactly. Cool. Well, that's coming your way, as is Wonder Woman 10 and Superwoman 4. IDW Publishing has Adventures of Augusta Wind, Last Story number 4. Back to the Future number 14.
Augusta Wind.
Yeah, there's also Batman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures, and this is where the Batman animated series and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated series cross over with one another. That looks like a lot of fun. First issue arrives next week, as does Dirk Gently's Salmon of a Doubt. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic number 48, Star Trek Ongoing trade paperback, and Star Trek Boldly Go number 2. Over at Image Comics, we have Fuse 23, Glitter Bomb number 3, Green Valley number 2. Let's see. What is LCSD?
Local Comic Shop Day?
Oh, Local Comic Shop Day 2016, because I saw it in a couple of places. You can get some exclusives from Image Comics at your local comic shop day next week. Also coming out, No Mercy number 11 and Violent Love number 1. Marvel Comics has All New X-Men number 15, Avengers 1.1, Civil War 2, Choosing Sides trade paperback, The Clone Conspiracy number 2 of 5, Daredevil number 13, Invincible Iron Man number 1 now.
Invincible is the one with Riri Williams.
Yes, it is. And did you see, I mean, you saw the controversy that J. Scott Campbell had with his cover that caused Midtown Comics to go ahead and cancel their variant cover.
Yeah, I saw that he did a different image, but I don't know if they're actually going to use that for the cover.
He said, yeah, so the different image I like a whole lot better than the original, which I thought was really, really good, the second one. But he did post, he said, this is not official. This is nothing unless somebody wants to use it and wants to buy it from me or whatever. But the thing that I find most impressive is, first, he was very dismissive of everyone's comments about the original art. And then it's like, I was really surprised and impressed that he's like, you know what? Let me go back and redo this.
Right.
I don't know if he said he was taking people's comments into account, but he did kind of say something that I thought was surprising, in that he just kind of rushed through the original cover.
Yes.
Where he was just kind of like, it almost felt like blow off work to him.
Uh-huh.
And so now he's actually taking the time. And here's what happens if I actually take the time on my artwork, which I find very fascinating.
That's just a really obnoxious thing to say. But it was clear from that original cover that he had no idea who the character was.
No. And you know, why would he? He's asked to do a variant cover of XYZ, you know, here's the elements that you need to have on the cover. Okay, let me just knock out one of my, you know, Danger Girl poses and go with it.
I think that's a failing on the editorial level, to be honest.
Probably. But I'm glad that he went back and said, let me do something different. Let me see what would happen if I actually attempted to do this.
I'm glad he did that, because it's always frustrating when an artist, you know, is confronted with something like that and responds by continually doing it to annoy people. Not mentioning any names.
Right. Outrageous.
Yeah.
Mosaic number 2 comes out next week. Slapstick.
Still haven't read number 1. I have it set aside in my pile.
Of Mosaic?
Yeah.
Is that an X-Men thing?
Mosaic? No. Mosaic is their new... I think he's a new big Inhuman.
Oh, okay.
And this is one of their big releases. This is their attempt to intentionally create a Ms. Marvel character, I believe.
Okay. All right. Solo number 2 comes out next week, as does Spider-Man Deadpool number 11.
So low, you can barely hear it. I'm worried about that because Solo number 1 came out this week.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. And it's one of those half a dozen Deadpool spinoffs we're getting.
Solo is?
Solo, yeah.
Oh, it's not a Star Wars Han Solo thing?
No, Solo is one of the Mercs for Money.
Oh, okay. I know which one this guy is now.
And Fool Killer's getting his own book.
Yeah, I saw Fool Killer was, yeah.
Fool Killer. And somebody else out of that run. Maybe Stingray? I don't know. I'd like to see a Stingray. That'd be cool.
All right. In all the rest category, we have Adventure Time number 58. Assassin's Creed Awakening number 1. Belladonna number 2. Betty and Veronica number 2.
Come on, stab your friend.
Let's see. What else do we have here?
Betty and Veronica number 2. Huh?
Betty and Veronica number 2 comes out next week, as does Faith. Number 2 gets a second printing. Evil Heroes number 3. FemForce 176.
What?
Yep, FemForce 176. That is a $10 book.
I bought FemForce 169 like 6 years ago.
I think it comes out like isn't it a quarterly book?
I think at this point it may actually be biannual, but yeah, it may be quarterly now.
I always thought it was quarterly for some reason, at least back in the day when I was buying it.
When I was buying it, it was a monthly, but that was 1991.
Oh, okay. All right. Hard Case Crime Triggerman number 2. That's the Titan Comics imprint.
Triggerman.
Yeah, that's some intense stuff. If you like hard crime stuff.
Oh, so it's not like a superhero who has the power of truth.
No, this is like Southern Bastards, but in your traditional pulp noir setting.
I think Triggerman should be a superhero who can transform into Roy Rogers' horse.
Okay.
And then, gallop away.
Or he could just be a villain that goes around and shouts things that are trigger warnings that cause people to cringe.
Oh, that'd be offensive, though.
That's why he's a villain.
That would be so offensive. That's what I'm saying.
Jungle Fantasy Ivory number 4 comes out next week. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 covers on that one.
Please tell me there's not a nude wrapper.
There is the regular cover. All these are mature, obviously. The Luscious cover, the Luscious nude cover, the Natural Beauty cover, the Natural Beauty nude cover, the nude cover just by itself.
The nude cover, where she actually
the sultry cover, the sultry nude cover, the wraparound cover, and the wraparound nude cover.
Well, I guess it's better than Crossed.
Notice Crossed. No more Crossed. Crossed is over, right?
Crossed is over. I do believe that there are other spin-offs still out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Crossed ran its course.
All right. Spirit Hunters number 1, The Mummy number 1.
Mummy.
Vamp Blade number 10. And WWE Then Now Forever number 1 from Boom Studios.
This is like the 10th.
A wrestling one, right? Yeah.
The last one I kind of liked in a ridiculous way because it took the WWE characters and put them in a city called Titan City.
Was that the John Cena one?
John Cena was in it. He was a private investigator. And Randy Orton was a corrupt cop, and Mark Henry ran a bar, and Rey Mysterio Jr. was the local superhero.
Isn't that basically the same idea behind WWE films or whatever it is?
Kind of. WWE Films does movies that star their actor wrestlers.
Yeah, the wrestlers. Yeah,
but aren't necessarily about wrestling.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what it sounded like you were saying with that comic book you were reading. That it was kind of the same way.
They're still overtly the wrestlers and the wrestling characters. They're just fictionalized in this weird city and doing this crime noir superhero love story ridiculousness.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
but before that, there was a series, and I can't remember who put it out, where The bad guys
Paper
were possessed
Cuts.
by literal demons.
I think that was Paper Cuts.
Yes, and they actually murdered each other.
Oh, wow. No, probably not Paper Cuts because they're a little bit more kid-friendly than that.
Yeah, there was a run through Paper Cuts. I mean, the WWE goes from publisher to publisher trying to find something that they can run up the flagpole and have it stick.
Well, maybe this one will, because Boom Studios has gotten a lot of traction in the last couple of years with a lot of its properties that it's licensed or has partnered with. So maybe this is the chance, Matthew. WWE, then now forever #1. Are you picking it up, yes or no?
I might. Well, maybe. I don't know, if I run into it.
Okay. All right.
We'll see how hard it is to find.
Oh, it's not going to be hard to find because they send us review copies. So.
Oh, well, then throw me a review copy and I will definitely review issue 1.
All right.
And now, forever. King!
Next week on Dueling Review.
Clean Room number 13, written by Gail Simone, art by John Davis Hunt. In the aftermath of Hell Above, Heaven Below, we go back to the beginning to learn how Astrid was first affected after her hospitalization, through the eyes of one who cannot see what she sees, her would-be assassin and brother, Peter Mueller.
You can show your support for this show and everything we do at Major Spoilers by becoming a Patreon member at patreon.com/Major Spoilers. Your contribution allows us to keep this show going, pay for our growing costs, and gives us motivation to produce more content for you each and every week. And here's a cool thing. You know, every time that you listen to one of the Major Spoilers podcasts, you can sit back and have the satisfaction of knowing that you are making that show happen. So head over to patreon.com/Major Spoilers. Thank you for checking out Dueling Review, and we're going to talk with you next time when you'll hear Matthew say,
Rally ho, Coily!
This podcast is copyright 2016 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.